But I want to make sure that my bottom is like at least that thick. And the reason why is because I'm actually going to trim out a lot of that thickness. So I need to leave, if you do it like the thickness that we have been doing it, you won't be able to have a foot on the bottom. Will just be flat because you won't be able to trim any away.
Is that like half of an inch?
So yeah, you can actually make this, the height of this determines the height of your foot. So if you want a pretty small foot, then this would be a good distance, like to the bottom of that thing. That's like, you would be able to trim out like that much, so it would come up just a little, and it would sort of not be that big of a foot. But you could have a very long foot, so you could leave a lot down there, and it could be a super tall foot.
What's it called
Like,
foot?
huh? What's a tall foot?
No,
Like,
why is it called a foot?
why is it called a foot? Oh, yeah, thank you. So on the back of there's different kinds of feet. You can look at that. Why is it called a foot? I think because it's the termination of pot, like our feet are the termination of us, like where they hit the ground. How it hits the ground. How it hits the ground. Okay, so I have a bowly-like shape. I'm going to throw with my sponge because my clay is really dry. This is the clay we had out for the thing, so it's kind of dry. That's okay. All right, so what I want to do now, I don't want to lose my interior. Like that's a nice curve. I want to keep that curve as much as I can. So I'm going to throw the, my inside hand is going to be sort of just, it's not pushing, it's pushing in the direction of the bowl. Remember how when we did some shaping on the wheel, we kind of went with where we wanted it? So that's, the inside hand is doing that, and so is the outside hand really. But the outside hand is doing a lot more than the inside hand. The inside hand is more just giving it sort of stability.
Why are you using a sponge?
Because the clay is super dry.
Oh.
Is it still dry after so many water?
Yeah, really dry. Okay.
So is the difference from pulling this bowl and pulling just a cylinder that you're pushing more with the inside?
It's that I'm actually pulling the shape that I desire right away.
And not just straight up?
Not straight up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never straight up?
I mean, some people do. So this is the way I do it. I throw it straight into a bowl. Other people throw a cylinder and then lay it out. What I want though is I want that bottom to be a nice curve. It's hard to get a nice curve when you throw a cylinder because the bottom is usually flat. So I'm looking for that curve in the bowl that I make. So that's where I'm going. Now you see how this outside part is pretty like wide and chunky? I'm going to keep it that way. So this is actually where I'm going to stop pulling from down there. I'm going to go through the motions, but I'm not going to change that clay. Does that make sense? But I am going to throw the top part of the bowl a little bit more because I have some clay to play with still. Don't be mad. Get practicing. You can do it. I want to remind you that it took me 6 years, okay, to feel comfortable-ish throwing. 6 years of intense practice. So I'm always so like amazed by the people who can throw a cylinder in like a quarter even. I'm like, what? Because that was not me. Okay. So, okay, bottom's pretty chunky. This clay is dry, so I can actually go wider than I would be able to if the clay was wet. Okay?
Wait, why?
Because the clay is stiffer, so it can hold itself easier. So if it was super wet, I would be able to feel, like once I got to a certain place, it would be like, and then it would go, right?
It happens, yeah.
Right? So cool. Okay. So then this next part is kind of a shaping thing. Other people do this other ways. This is the way I found that works for me. So you can YouTube how to shape a bowl, but I use a flexible rib. So y'all have one that's made out of metal. That'll work. But you also have maybe a rubber one. Should have come with your kit, but I think they took them out of the kit.
Oh, we got wood and metal.
Okay, well, look around. Maybe the studio will purchase some more rubber ones because they're pretty useful for this. The metal ones sometimes catch on the clay and then cut you, and I don't want that to happen. So what I do is I wet my outside hand so it will slide, and then I use my inside hand with the rib and I flex it so that it has the right shape. And I only use part of it. I'm not using the whole side. You can see what I'm using. And I'm not taking away very much, just a little. It's mostly for shape, not for anything else.
Is this only on the bowl part, not the bottom?
It's only on the inside, and it's on the bottom as well. Sorry, say that again.
Well, I need to I don't know. I need to
Yeah.
see.
So maybe we can rotate out so whoever hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
So it starts here. I'm at about 12 o'clock. I gotta get my outside hand wet, otherwise it doesn't work. So then I just go up the side, and my outside hand is supporting. If I did this without my outside hand, then the bowl would just go, because I am pushing, but not very hard. Make sense?
Does anyone else want to switch with me?
Is this the trim? Is this trimming?
This is not trimming.
Is this shaping?
This is shaping.
And you're making it more of a dip?
I'm just making the interior curve nicer.
Nicer.
That's all I did. I made it nicer.
Like a smooth transition from the floor to the side.
Yeah, smooth transition from the floor to the side. I'm just paying attention to the curve. This is also a form of compression, which is an important thing. Now you can make the decision, like right now there's like a little dip right here. Can you see that? Right there? I can decide to keep that, or I can also maybe like lay down. I have a bowl at home like this that I made that I really love. I use it all the time. Just like, so my outside hand is supporting my left, and my right hand is using the rib to give myself a rim. And I can make a sharper edge. And then I use this little part in between my fingers to get the rim nice. And then the rib has different sides, so part of the sides are round and part of them are flat. I don't want this to be perfectly flat. Do you notice how it's at an angle?
Mm-hmm.
I want that
Why?
because flat things in ceramics don't survive that well. They flop or break. I mean, it wouldn't break, but it would flop.
Is the wheel slower than when we do a cylinder?
This is like the finishing part, so I always slow it down for these kinds of things regardless of the shape, really. Yeah. Okay, and then the last step that is extremely vital, that may be a step that is hard for, like, that maybe some of you didn't get that first round. I don't know why everything's gone out of here. Can somebody grab one of those clay knives from that other bin?
What? A knife?
The clay knife? Like the wood one. There's a million of them in there. Oh, thanks. That's it. Thank you, sorry. Okay, so right now, if I were to just cut this off and be done and then turn it over to try to trim it later, my bottom would not be perfectly round. It would be roughly round, but not perfect, and perfect is a bad word. Not precisely round, as I want it to be. I want it to be pretty precisely round. Even if the top's not perfectly round or precisely round, I still want the bottom to be so that I can trim